Um, I think I've heard you say that your dad was a boxing instructor. Could you talk about how your dad got you started in martial arts and how he influenced your fight career generally?
Of course, yeah. My dad was one of the first guys within Canada to have, back a long time ago, it was more blue collar guys were fighting. And he
Okay.
decided, oh, I'm going to open a gym for white collar individuals. And it was just a little bit before his time. It was before I was born.
Okay.
That was sort of his. I mean, he had a couple fights, but it was just more a business for him. And then when he had kids, he just basically brought us up. You have to get your black belt. It wasn't. It wasn't. Do you want to? It's you have to, because he just wanted us to be safe, and he wanted to know that if we left the house and for some reason something happened, we could take care of ourselves.
Oh,
And then
okay.
that just bit by bit translated into me doing karate, and then we transitioned to kickboxing, and then now I ended up where I am now. But
Okay.
there's been a long time of my career where he's been asking me to retire, just because
Oh,
it's
okay.
stressful. It's stressful for parents to see their kids fight. So
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. And also, I guess your brother has kind of had an influence as well. From what is he a fighter himself, or is he a just a corner man? Is he or
he's a cornerman. He's actually in med school now, so he's going to become a doctor. He had 10 fights before he focused on school. But he's just, he's been the guy who's been training with me ever since we were both, 6 and 8
okay?
years old. So he just knows my style really well. And yeah, we don't really have a whole lot of experience dealing with other fighters. It's just basically the two of us were together, and it made sense to have him in my corner because he knows me well.
Okay, cool. So I guess you went. Your dad, I guess, he went with karate. Then is there a particular reason for that coming from that? Because I would have thought coming from the boxing background, he would have probably gone for like boxing maybe as the first
Yeah.
choice, but he obviously went with karate then.
Yeah, he went with the karate. I think probably just because he wanted us to develop the mindset that comes
Oh,
with karate and all the values and everything like that as well. I mean, he instilled them in us as best he could, but I guess sometimes when you just do boxing or you just do a fight sport, you don't get those same values.
okay,
It depends on the instructor, of
okay,
course, but a lot of karate they really drill that. Being humble, being polite, being this, being that, and I think that's what my dad really wanted for us.
okay, cool. And was it Shotokan that you started in? Was it?
It was Shotokan. It was loosely based upon that because we did the kata and all that traditional form sort of stuff. But then there was also, I would call it almost like a kickboxing element too, because we would do
Oh,
sort of, it's called continuous karate.
oh, okay then. Yeah. Okay. And then was that the only style of karate that you did, or did you move on to any other styles?
It's been a while since I've gone through. I did do other styles, I suppose. Shotokan
Oh,
was the main one, but we were always, just because I never had just one instructor. I was always working with different people. So every time I went to a different gym, they were giving me little bits of different information. We did very little, but a little bit of the Yoshikai, Kyokushin sort of style. Just with no gloves and just hitting the body, and you get really good at the low kicks. And we did a little bit of that, and a couple other. There's one style I can't remember. I think it was called Kagamala karate, but I don't really know too much about the base and the origins of it or anything like that. So yeah, it's just been a whole mesh of karate.
oh, okay. Cool. And have you done many sort of karate tournaments, or has it mainly been sort of the kickboxing style, or did you do like karate first, or?
Loads of karate tournaments. Yes, pretty
Oh,
much from, I want to say, maybe since I was 10 all the way up till I was about 17 or 18, probably somewhere between 6 to 10 tournaments per year.
oh, okay. Cool. So, in terms of MMA, sometimes people look at guys like, for instance, Lyoto Machida or maybe like Stephen Thompson, for instance, and they say they have this kind of sort of point fighting type style. And some people kind of say that that transitions slightly better to MMA than sort of kickboxing kind of style. Do you have any opinions on that, or do you think sort of kickboxing has a good transition towards sort of MMA generally?
Um, when I did the not full transition yet, but when I did my first MMA fight, one of the guys who's very successful, Bibiano Fernandez, who's a ONE FC champion, he was telling me you don't want to throw more than 3 strikes in a row
Oh,
in MMA, and for me that was very difficult to sort of wrap my head around because I'm used to you let your hands go and go and go, but he was telling me as soon as you do that, you expose yourself to the takedown, whereas karate is the exact opposite and very, very good for MMA because you explode in, you throw your technique, and you exit very quickly. So I wouldn't say one is necessarily better than the other because neither is perfect, but they definitely both. Yeah, I mean, kickboxing on its own is not perfect, and karate on its own is not perfect unless you're one of the guys like Wonder Boy who can pull it off. But yeah, I would say it's sort of on its own striking style, and the guys can be very creative and unique in what method they want to choose with their striking approach. There's no one way you have to do it.
okay. That's quite interesting then. So, what would a typical week in training look like for you when you're preparing for a fight? Is it like kind of running in the morning and then gym in the afternoon and then sort of weights maybe on Tuesday, or is it, how would you break it down roughly?
It's very similar to what you said. I make sure I run once a day.
Okay.
I usually do that 6 days a week. So I
Okay.
run a lot. I don't do really any weights.
Okay.
It's just, I know a lot of fighters put a lot of emphasis on the strength and conditioning, but it's never been a priority for me. So I just focus more on the cardio. And then, sometimes it's kickboxing in the morning because most of my sessions are just me and one other person. I don't do group classes. It's just a lot of one-on-one. So it's whenever I can schedule with somebody else. So yeah, one running session per day and one striking session per day. And I do that 6 days a week. Yeah, whenever I'm in fight camp.
Okay, great. And in terms of the running, in terms of maybe a sort of general kind of sort of strength and conditioning kind of standard, say if you had, say, an amateur and they were kind of transitioning to the pro level, obviously you couldn't make too much of a big deal of how good they are at running compared to how good they are at kind of fighting. But would you say maybe it's like say a 6.5 minute mile? Is that a good standard, or could you put a number on it, or would you not really like to do that?
Ooh. I think if you were going to break it down in terms of what sort of speed you need, you would probably want to go, it wouldn't work perfectly, but by weight class, because you'll
Okay,
see
yeah,
some of you'll see the heavyweights run, and heavyweights, even though they're tall, probably won't run nearly as fast as maybe somebody at 150 or 170 pounds who's a little leaner. Seems like when I see heavyweights in videos doing their running routine, I look at them and I kind of laugh. I'm like, that's hardly even a run. That's like a slow jog,
yeah,
but it's so much harder for them. So for somebody around myself, when I am trying to do a mile at the track, that's 4 times around the track, I try to maintain somewhere between 120 and 130 per lap. So that's coming in right around what you said. Yeah, you want to get that 6 minute mile or slightly under.
yeah.
Would I expect a heavyweight to get that? No, and then maybe not a really light guy, like a 125 guy might not be able to hit that just because of the shorter legs. But anybody else, I would say yes, that's a good goal to aim for.
Yep. Okay. Cool. That makes sense. So kind of switching the focus from that kind of strength and conditioning style talk. One fighter who obviously has skills that you couldn't really pick up on that is Lurdzilla, because obviously like his head movement you couldn't really like break that. That's not something you can pick up on like a strength and conditioning kind of test. So I heard that you're the first foreigner, like non-Thai fighter to beat him.
Hmm.
Um, can you describe what it was like fighting him? I guess you've been through this a couple of times now, but just kind of once more, maybe.
Yeah, of course. Well, the first thing about Lordzilla was back then I didn't really know who he was to the extent that most people do now. He's become very popular now, and he's accomplished many great things before he fought me and after. But at the time, it didn't really matter to me. I was telling the promotion K1. That's who when I fought against him, it was K1. And I just said, give me anybody in the world, I'll fight them. And his name popped up and I just went, no, okay, let's research him. And the main thing, like you said, was the head movement. But the head movement, I know a lot of people get thrown off by him because defensively, he's so good. He's so amazing. But the thing about defense is defense doesn't win fights. Defense is him not hitting me. So I don't care how good you are at defense. It's the offense, which would concern me more. So when I saw him, I went, he's beatable. I just can't fight his fight and I can't go into his game plan. And I just put a video out this morning on my YouTube channel talking about showboating fighters and how to defeat showboaty fighters. And it was basically talking about Lordzilla and just saying, you can't fall into their trap. And their trap is basically getting mentally affected by their showboating. So as soon as I just shut that down and I went, you know what, I'm just coming forward. I'm going to come forward like Terminator. I'm not going to let anything he does affect me. I'm just going to keep coming and coming and coming. If he sticks his tongue out at me or something like that, I'm not even going to acknowledge it. I'm going to acknowledge nothing. And that was sort of the game plan.
Okay, cool. So in terms of kickboxing generally then, are you a big fan of the sport? Do you follow it closely, or is it mainly like fighters in other weight classes, or
I'm a big fan of most of the fight sports. Kickboxing is obviously my passion, so I keep up with it as best I can. Although right now there's sort of a slight lull. Glory's not putting on loads of events. ONE FC has scaled back just because of COVID. So yeah, I mean, kickboxing is just in a bit of a slow time. I'm a big fan of boxing, so I keep up with that quite a bit. And then MMA is sort of my third favorite, if I had to list them. So I still watch that. So yeah, I love most fight sports.
Okay then. Who are some of your favorite boxers then?
Oh, geez. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like him because he got caught for cheating, they say, but Antonio Margarito was one of my favorite boxers. He just had that same sort of style that I like, just, trucking forward, chasing people. He just had that iron determination that he won't stop.
Okay. I
actually got to see him fight Pacquiao live, which he got picked apart in that fight, but I really like him. But any of the high-level boxers, I'm very impressed by them. Right now, Canelo, obviously, is super impressive to watch, and just really anybody at the moment. They just have such fantastic weight classes, especially down at 135 with Ryan Garcia and Tank and all those guys. I really like that weight class as well.
Okay, cool. So another Thai fighter that you've talked about kind of wanting to fight is Senshai. Can you describe what a fight with him would kind of mean to you and why you want to fight him?
Yeah. I got the belts behind me and I've sort of run out of accolades to chase in terms of collecting belts. There's a couple more that I could go after, but it won't dramatically change anything in my career anymore. It's like, okay, now instead of like 6 world titles, he has 7. Okay, well, whatever. But in terms of being able to defeat Sanchai, that's a completely different level. It's above and beyond defeating Lordzilla because Sanchai is just so much recognition and definitely the GOAT of MMA. So yeah, it's just always chasing a new level to try and crack. I never thought I'd be up at this stage where I'd accomplish this much, but now that I'm here, you always have to look higher and higher, and I can't really think of anything else that would be more impressive now in my career than being able to defeat Sanchai. He's a little older now, so it's too bad the fight couldn't happen a little earlier in our careers. Just, I'm fine. 36, no big deal. I feel fresh and ready to go, but he's a little older. But back when the fight got offered to me years ago, it was such a small amount of money. It was $2,000 to fight Sanchai, and I just went, that's ridiculous. There's no point in taking a fight for $2,000. I can fight other guys and make like 2-3 times the money. So yeah, hopefully we can make it happen now.
Okay, cool. So looking at your record from the outside looking in, I guess it will kind of look like one fighter that you struggled with was Robin van Roosmalen. Is that somebody you're interested in rematching, or is it just another fight? Or you bothered about that? Or?
That's the one fight of my career where I went, yeah, I lost that fight. And that one stings. You know, I've had other fights where I've lost. Obviously, I think I have 6 losses, but that was the one where I went, okay, there's no questionable judging decision. There's no, I could have beat him on a different day. He was just a hard fight. And I've actually been offered a rematch against him in MMA. But the big thing that I noticed when I fought Robin was he was so strong, just so much stronger than anybody else I'd fought. And since I fought him, he hasn't been able to make the weight class anymore. The weight cuts really hurt him because, you know, he was the champion at 155, so he came down. And since then, he can't make the weight. So when they offered me the fight, they said, okay, we're going to have to do a catch weight of 150, which is getting really close to my walking around weight. I walk at 153. So I turned it down because I went, no, if he can't make the weight, then he shouldn't be fighting at this weight class. So unless he can get his body sorted out and actually get back down to my weight, I don't think I would be interested, because I know he cuts 25, 30 pounds to get to where I am, and I cut 10. So I'm not a big fan of weight cutting in fight sports. I think it's just a bit of a ridiculous parade. You know, we all cut weight and then we jump back up, and it's unhealthy. And I've been told a couple of times that I should drop down to 135 to be competitive at MMA, but I just go, I don't want to put my body through that. It's just nothing I'm interested in. And there's, you know, a life after fighting, and I don't want to jeopardize my heart. So yeah, I don't have too much interest in fighting Robin unless he could naturally make the weight class and not have another 20 pounds on me.
Okay, cool. So in terms of the weight class that you're fighting at, I guess in Bellator they have the kind of featherweight 145, and then sometimes in some of like the Chinese promotions they have like 67 and then sort of 64 kg.
Yeah.
Do you prefer fighting at those weights, or does it not really matter? Kind of, you know.
Ooh. Good question. I mean, like I said, I don't like cutting weight. I wish we could just all weigh in what we walk at. But in terms of being up against guys who are naturally bigger than me, I do feel the most dominant when we weigh in. I guess it'd be around 64 kilograms. Like, I really don't enjoy making that. And it's not even hard. It's just I don't enjoy putting my body through that danger time where you're just having to cut weight and it's unpleasant. But yeah, I'd say 64 is probably a very good weight class for me. Okay. Nobody's gonna be dramatically stronger than me there. I fought at 67 a couple times, and I went, okay, yeah, I'm undersized at this point, but I would do it again. It's just I can't go any higher than that. It would be ridiculous for me to go higher because I'm only cutting at that point. So I think probably 5 pounds. Yeah, 64 is great for me.
Okay, cool. So I'm not sure how much of the news you've seen over the last couple of weeks, but I know one fighter who's been in the news is Joe Schilling. I don't know if you've seen that incident, but do you have any opinions kind of on that kind of thing?
I did see that. I saw that. I went downstairs and showed my brother as soon as I saw it. We both met Joe, and you know he's an interesting guy. He's always been very, very nice to me. Okay. But he has a bit of an edge. You know, whenever he's around, you can just tell he's not one of those guys that I'd want to go up and give him a hug or something like that. He just probably push you away. Yeah, I mean, I am all in the sport about represent the whole industry in the way that we want to be seen by the media and the way that I want the public to interpret fighters. And unfortunately, anybody who's never watched fighting often interprets fighters as being just kind of brutes with low intellect and, you know, the not nice people. And most of the time, I try to tell people, especially on my YouTube channel, that fighters, people in fight sports, are the nicest people in the world. They're the people that will run across the street to help you if you're getting mugged, or if they see somebody who needs groceries put in the car, they'll be the first people to walk over. But when you get guys who show up in the media constantly, it's like, oh, fighter knocks out guy at bar, it tarnishes the reputation of all the good fighters. So I don't know all the details of what that guy did to really bug Joe. And, you know, maybe he had it coming to a certain extent, but I always feel like I've had people on the street come up and push me, drunk guys try to hit me. And I always just go, you know what? I spent my whole day in the gym. I don't want to fight. I spend my life doing it. And I just walk away. I always just walk away. And it served me well. And it would be nice if all the fighters out there would just do that. Like, don't get in the media because it just makes everybody else look bad. So I'm sure maybe Joe had his reasons, but I would prefer not to see that.
Okay, cool. So when do you think we'll see you in action again?
I'm waiting. I've been waiting for a while now. For me, it's which path do I take? Do I take the MMA focus and just fully commit to that? What I was doing before, kickboxing fight, MMA fight, kickboxing fight, MMA fight. It was fine for the time, but I'm never going to go anywhere in MMA or very high in MMA just doing that because, you do
Well, you never know. I
MMA
mean,
kick training.
There are a lot of older kind of MMA fighters out there, so if you can get in the rounds of jiu-jitsu and wrestling and everything, then you never know. But
Oh yeah, I can definitely do it. I just can't switch camps because every time I do an MMA camp, and then we'd get a little bit of success, and I'd start retaining some information, and then there'd be a kickboxing camp, and I'd stop all jiu-jitsu, all wrestling because I go, the next fight is kickboxing, and I got to put all my energy there. So I either need to go MMA, everything's about MMA, or kickboxing, everything's back to kickboxing. In terms of which way, I'm just looking at offers right now, but COVID has slowed everything up dramatically. ONE FC, I was looking at talking with them, but they're running on a reduced schedule, limited fights, so they're trying to get their own fighters that are currently signed, they're contracted fights. Same with Glory, I've talked to them. I could go back to Bellator and focus there. At the moment, I'm just trying to wait for COVID to kind of wrap up. I'm hoping in the next 2 or 3 months, most of the countries will be back to normal and the fight promotions will be running at full capacity, and they'll be trying to make up for lost time, getting lots of events going, not running on the reduced schedule, and then I can really make a decision. And most importantly, at this stage in my career, not have to sign a contract for a big purse reduction. That would kind of hurt right now. I've done all the work of my career, and then you have to sign a contract for 50% of what you were making before because COVID. That's what everybody says. Is, we have to pay you less because of COVID. Yeah, I'll wait it out.
Okay, yeah. I guess it must be kind of frustrating because I guess in terms of when you do the MMA, I guess you're kind of kickboxing sparring sort of. I guess you might be losing a little bit of sharpness, I guess, and then your MMA gets better. But then when you do the MMA, it's like splitting your energy, I guess.
It is to a certain extent. I'm sure my kickboxing will, like if I took a kickboxing fight, I would want a whole long, maybe 3-month training camp to get myself back to par and really sort of clear out that MMA sort of style that I've been trying to adapt to. But at the same time, I'm always kind of keeping in my mind, maybe I'll be back to kickboxing. So I haven't really fully committed to MMA striking either. I'm just kind of in between playing with both. So yeah, I'm not feeling like I'm at this moment really dialed in either. I can go either direction.
Okay, cool. So I think I heard you say in one of your videos that you travel, I think, is it maybe like 3 to 4 hours for a sparring partner? Is that correct?
Yeah, that is, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what is it that's kind of unique about him compared to, is it like the level, or maybe like he's a cool guy who's not really egotistical, or is it that kind of?
It's the level. So I live on an island it's not even too far from Vancouver, but it's just we're on an island, so I have to take a ferry. Mm-hmm. And, there's good talent on the island, but nobody who can push me, nobody who's at my skill level. So the only other guy that I know in the province who starting, I think it was in 2014, I was looking for a really high-level sparring partner, and it's Josh Johnsey, who is the #1 contender for the Glory title at lightweight.
Okay.
And yeah, we just sort of recognized in one another that we needed some very high-level fighters around our weight class. He's one above me, but that doesn't make a big difference. And we just, aside from traveling over to Holland or somewhere else, it was very hard to get that high-level sparring. So we just both make the commitment to when I'm in fight camp and I need the rounds, I go to him, and when he needs to come to me, he does that. and we just come over, and it's a lot of time for very, very minimal rounds. We both have the same mindset. We go, you know what, we're training for a 3-round fight. Let's do 5 rounds. 5 rounds is all we need. So we do the whole trek across, which ends up taking somewhere between, it takes me about 40 minutes to drive to the ferry. You have to hang around there. It takes about an hour and a half to hour and 40 minutes on the ferry. And then you got to get to his gym. And there's just so much time. Then you got to come back. And it's all for 5 rounds of sparring. You know, when you warm up and you do everything, it's probably more like an hour and 20-minute session. But really, it's 15 minutes of sparring. But you know, you need the good rounds, and we don't do it often in fight camp. We'll see each other 4 to 6 times in a fight camp. So it's just really when we're at the end and we're trying to dial everything in and we're feeling sharp, and we can just push each other that extra little bit. And sometimes it's a sacrifice you have to make.
Okay, cool. And from what I understand, you're an advocate of sometimes a bit more intense sparring than you sometimes see. Okay.
Yeah, well, the big thing, same thing that Josh often says when he explains to people what we're doing, because a lot of people watch us and be like, whoa, you guys are going hard. And you guys are really trying to hurt each other. And he goes, well, no, the thing you have to recognize about high-level fighters banging it out is we both have amazing defense. And that's the big thing. If you have 2 guys who are intermediate, they have good offense, but their defense might not be that great. So then they end up clipping each other more. Whereas with Josh and I, we're throwing hard, we're targeting the head, but we have the ability at the last second to pull shots, maybe 10, 20% power off them if needed. It's still a hard shot, but it's still pulled. And most of the time we can block them. There's some degree of evasion or blocking. So in all the rounds we've done, we started in 2014, and we've put in a lot of hard rounds together. And I don't think either of us have ever left concussed. We've never knocked each other down, even though we're going hard. And I am a big advocate for minimizing brain damage and minimizing, just trauma to the head. But when you are preparing for a full fight, you do have to do a couple sessions where you are basically recreating that fight. And you want to minimize it, yes. So that's why we do minimal rounds and minimal times during fight camp where we actually meet up. And then aside from that, I do all the sparring with my other partners who, we do a more controlled pace, a more methodical pace, more focused on timing and technique.
Okay, cool. So is it ONE FC, do you think? Or do you have no idea at the minute? Maybe there's like Glory of Heroes as well as out there. It's kind of a big promotion.
Yeah, there's so many options right now. I really have no idea right now. I never even thought about going to UFC because I had the contract with Bellator, and I went, you know what, I'm going to finish my career with Bellator. I thought that would be it. Now I'm like, if I can go and pick up a couple of wins in some other promotion and get to UFC, maybe I'll do a couple years there. So yeah, you start going UFC, Bellator, Glory of Heroes. I've fought for Hero Legends in China. ONE FC. I've even spoken to K1, Glory. I've talked to all the promotions. It's just at the moment, which one's going to be the right spot for me to go. And I'm at the point in my career where I really don't know now. Am I going to do another year? Just, a couple more fights just so I can wrap my head around, just the sort of finale of my career and being able to leave and go, okay, I'm done. Or maybe I really enjoy it and I sign with UFC or something. I'm like, I'll put another 3 or 4 years. I really don't know at this point what's going to shape up. I just know I want to get in for at least another year of fighting before I call it.
Okay, cool. So good luck for that then. I think that's all the questions that I've got. So
perfect. That was great. Thank you so much, Stuart.